Who do you consider to be the safest men, right? The safest masculine. Let's go over 33 traits a brother wrote down. I'm going to get ready to do a little gathering with my brother Juan. So we often are both working with male and female people, receiving healings, receiving our support on the journey. And I was chatting with my brother, and I've done this in the past. I've had offerings held by Safe Masculine for the women. And so Juan and myself will be presenting and providing a safe container, a day to heal, like a one-day experience for some of the women in our community and also the communities that are choosing to come down to Tulum to have a different experience. I got 33 traits I want to go over with you, 33 statements talking about that safest masculine. What has this been in your life? Number 1, bear with me now, okay? This masculine will do right by you despite yourself. Len, I'm going to go over 33 traits of the safest masculine. And the first one is, will do right by you despite yourself. Meaning he may see some things in your character, or he might see some stuff from the past seeking to come up that probably wouldn't benefit you, and will still seek to hold you in his heart in a way by his actions that he would do right by you despite that, as opposed to becoming catty, going back and forth, okay? Next one. And for me, all this time, I've been in Tulum holding space, also for our sisters, getting to hear the laments about relationship and some victory stories, but mostly it's been laments. Check this one out. This one comes up a lot. The safe masculine isn't creepy. It's not creepy. What does it mean to not be creepy? It means you don't have that sinister snarl about you. It doesn't mean you're not attracted to a woman, but it does mean you don't have that creepy energy about you. And so if anyone on here has felt a creepy energy from me, feel free to let me know about it. Where I stand right now is that I just want people to be okay. So there's a purity in that. Doesn't mean that I'm not attracted. Doesn't mean that I don't get thirsty from time to time. But my thirst is well maintained. Why? Because I want the best for all those involved, not just myself. The next one is, and this is important, he considers and he understands the impact that he has in your life. He may not know the full impact, but he knows that he's impactful. And that means there's a responsibility, there's an ownership. How I speak to you, how I treat you when you're down, when you're up, when you're sideways, is going to impact not just you, but the people who come around you. So to take responsibility for that is a trait of a healthy and a safe masculine. He's not just thinking about this interaction, he's thinking about how this interaction will proceed forward in time. Now, another one, he takes care of his mind, his body, and his spirit. Taking care of his mind and his body. Now, here's one thing. I'm cruising around, making my way back to the jungle area, and what I see is a ton of construction. These men are using jackhammers. None of them have a safety vest on. Nobody has eye protection. It's over 60 decibels. No one has earplugs and or ear protection. No one's looking out, and so this isn't, now I'm a safety professional also by trade, right? Radiation safety is health and safety. And so there are things that are important. Now, if a man's not going to take care of himself, how's he going to help you out? And this is a process, it's a journey, but those are things to look at. You've got to take care of yourself. I need my hearing to be sharp so I can hear in protection. I need to be able to see. So I got to protect my eyes. That's why I have those goofy glasses, Lena. Right? The next one. He seeks to be spiritually in tune. And if he's out of tune, he'll get a tune-up. What does it mean to be spiritually in tune? Do you know why I craved to have a space like this? To be able to take that time to myself? It's so that I can go into deeper depth with my spirit, to get in tune with my intuition, and to give myself a tune-up, which may mean actually resting from time to time, or just cooking my own food, putting my own love and appreciation and energy and mana into the food, getting to connect with my ancestors through my cooking, because that's going to proceed forth. Every time I do that, it accumulates. So now when I cook for anyone else, when and if I do, can you imagine all the juju? This is why people love my cacao. Why? Because the cacao didn't just start with me. It started with my grandmother, my mom, right? I learned how to make things with them, but I got to witness how they made the things, and also other men in my family. I have a family of male chefs. So getting to see the energetics of what it is to prepare, the ritual of preparation, that's a spiritual thing. Check this one out. He will admit when he's wrong. So it's actually, nowadays, it seems like a hard thing for some people to do, you know? And not just admit when he's wrong, try to figure out a solution. So it's not so much I'm so embarrassed for being off. Oh, thank God, we figured out that I was off, because now I get to do the right thing. Whew. All right, let's talk about it. But on the flip side, that healthy, safe masculine will also admit when you're wrong, which means he's holding you accountable as well. And it takes a lot nowadays for men and women to hold each other accountable and be able to stand in the fire of that accountability. Okay? The next one. He knows how fragile the naked female ego can be and can be tactful. Whoa, what do I mean? I mean, to be seen is a very delicate thing. So for a man who's aware, who when he looks into the eyes of a woman can feel it's not just her eyes are pretty, but he feels into her pain. He's got deep empathy. Then he's got to be tactful in what he says and how he navigates that. But at the same time, we'll hold you accountable and tell you this ain't working. This isn't aligned. This behavior that you're presenting, I know this isn't you, but this doesn't work for a thing called us in our friendship, in a business, you know. And so a healthy masculine is not going to take all that bullshit as well. We're going to speak to you and speak to it, but we'll probably be as tactful as possible. And coincidentally, that healthy, safe masculine also, and this is the next one I have, the same goes for the men, okay? Because I know how tender we are, right? So it's really, we're dealing with these ego structures that can, you know, are afraid to crumble because they're afraid they're going to die, but that's the natural process, and they don't really die. They can transcend. You can transcend an ego in a person, right? You can bring it into the light. This is how I deal with possessions, by the way. You know, I don't seek to kill. I don't seek to exorcise, so many people say, because when you exorcise a demonic, quote-unquote, demonic entity out, all you do is move it. You exercise it. It gets stronger. It comes back. But it's another thing to actually imbue it with love and some understanding and recognize that it is allowed to exist because it does. It was created. And so what is the next step for that being, that entity, that experience in its creation? Does it have to be to feed off of an individual, to feed off their energy? Or is there another higher self, even to that self that's being expressed? Can you introduce it? Okay? And so this is important for the men. It's important for us to understand the love and remember the love and the tender ways that we are, and then to hold space for it. And I do love the heart of man, hence the work that I do. Okay? Now here's the thing, that tactfulness for the male and female, that's a matter of your sincerity. If you're not sincere, I can be extremely cuttingly straightforward, and I have no problem doing that. I own the violence that I am, but I also own the fact that I prefer not to be that person. I prefer to be sweet and kind. That's my natural way. But the other half of my natural way is just as sweet as I am, I can cut real sharp, right? And it's mine. I'm empowered by that as well. But there's a preference, okay? So here's another one for the healthy, safe masculine. He doesn't allow you to monopolize his time. Why? Because he's got things to do. And if he honors his purpose and he honors the things that he has to do, then you know when you're not looking and there's things that you're depending on him to do, he's going to honor that too, because he's not going to let other people monopolize his time, right? Because he knows what he needs to do with his time, and so he does it. And that's a big challenge for so many men nowadays, because our time gets monopolized by Instagram, right? By social media, but it's really the dopamine fix. By getting caught in so many things, being caught in conversations and in dynamics that don't benefit. So how does he not allow you to monopolize his time? If you're not aligned, Ezra is not going to spend time with you. In relationship, in dialogue, right? In container. But if I have identified that you're aligned to my purpose, then it's important for me to give you that time, give you that attention. And also I can speak to a person and say, hey, this isn't aligned and this is why. Which will bring me to more of what's coming next, okay? He does not need your approval. In the process, okay? Doesn't need your approval in the process of doing what needs to be done. Meaning, he understands what is necessary and needs to be done. He's taking the time in his safeness to look at what's very important. What is the big three rock, right? It's important to cover my ears if I'm working with a jackhammer. It's important to cover my eyes. It's important if I'm driving. You know what happened to me this morning? And I was oh so happy about it. I was driving by a man who was operating a backhoe, okay? The backhoe has a big bucket. It looks like a tractor with a bucket in the front. And then in the back, it's got a scooper. It's got these three prongs that set and base and give it structure. And so a guy was pulling out with the backhoe, and he had the bucket up. And I slowed down. I made eye contact with him. He looked at me. I was like, you let me by? And he brought the bucket down. That's the correct thing to do. So many times here in Tulum, I've gone by backhoes off and the bucket's up. That's just a hydraulic failure waiting to crush someone. So a man that knows what to do does it, and he feels good about it. And he won't let you get in the way. Coincidentally, he'll be able to articulate why and stand in that. He has, the next one, has a high expectation for the people he keeps company with. I think this has developed over time. In the beginning of my journey, I was just so happy to be around people. You know, I'm happy because I love human beings. But now, because I know the potency of what I'm cultivating within myself, it's like I'm saving myself. I'm saving the good that is as. I'm saving the good lingam that is as for the right person, the right people. So I hold myself in now, right? I'm not going to be all over Tulum. You might see me going across Tulum, but I'm not going to be all over the place. Why? Because I'm preserving myself so that when I'm in contact with the right people, who it's, the expectation is there, but it's met, then I can give of myself fully. I'm not drained. You get the life force. And so the expectation for the people that I spend my time with is there now. I can express that expectation, but I'm not going to be with, I know the term misogynist is thrown around. I'm not going to be out with men who aren't respecting themselves. I will be with men in the men's group who they are, you know, but in public, where I go to eat, where I go to dine, what I'm speaking about has to be in line with the man who I am. If I'm hanging with you, if I'm in a work dynamic with you and I feel uncomfortable, not because I'm scared of you, but because you're full of shit, okay, let me backtrack. Not so much full of shit. If you are carrying yourself in a way, right, that is not aligned to who I know myself to be, then and I have to think twice, 3 times, and I feel like, oh man, I'm gonna spend time with this person, blah, blah, blah. Moving forward, I'm probably not gonna spend time with you. If I'm spending time with you, that says something about you right now, that you are amazing, you are aligned, and that I'm here with you. The people that I'm gonna do ceremony for in the times to come, and they're coming, you know, I'm with them for life. The people who I did ceremony for before, and guess what? Those people will be people who I'm curating, meaning I will not serve folks who aren't accountable, who will not move forward in respect of the integration process. I'm not going to serve you a boga, go through a week journey for you to then go drinking right afterwards. Now, I have some understanding the process of addiction recovery is tough. So it's going to depend on certain things, but I can spot things now that I'm getting to sit in my wisdom, thank you, love, that I'm going to walk in. I'm going to walk in what I've accumulated. I've got 33 of these, so let me keep it moving. All right, here's one. Okay, the safest masculine. Why, am I looking at the safest masculine? Because I've held processes for people in containers with men who were not safe, but I had to ensure the safety of the other people involved, especially the women, by holding these men at bay. You know, energetically, I'm doing all this stuff, but then it's like I have to put a chain, you know, the chain that you put around the dog with the suit, not the neck. I'm tugging them back while doing the work. I'm not doing that anymore. If you're not a safe man, if you're a creepy dude, we're not doing things together. We'll talk, we'll hang out in a men's group, you know, and we can speak to those characteristics, but in terms of a working dynamic, no. This is why I'm excited to work with Juan. You know, Juan and I will be creating a day experiences, the whole space safely in our purity for the feminine, and take them through a whole process, which will include ceremony, right? We'll do a live on it as well. So there'll be the ceremony, there'll be the work, acupressure work, there'll also be energetic work, because I'm also an energetic healer as well, and then time for integration, an integration plan, a meal, fun. But there's the activation of being in the presence of not just one, but 2 men who simply care about your process of releasing trauma. your process of healing. You having the activation of being around men who aren't trying to get on you, but who want to see you get on in life. Okay? So, with that said, these men, these safe men, are not fond of being tacky, trashy, or terroristic. And what do I mean? Think about it again. I'm going to say it one more time, because this is what's perpetuated. Tacky, and even I have to catch myself, right? Tacky is like, no. Okay, trashy, now we got to be dirty with it. Terroristic, you're uncomfortable with my tackiness. My trashiness, because I felt you respond to my trashiness, now it became, my tackiness, now it becomes trashy. So it's like an abuse, but subtle. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And then it becomes terroristic when it's like just very uncomfortable, not just for the women in the space, but for the women and the men. Those people who have class, who are of noble character, who aspire, right, to just to be the human, not to be the human and think that the dirtiness has to be a part of you being the human. People try to force that. Oh, I'm just being honest. I'm just being myself. No, you're being something that you didn't come out the womb like that. Something was imposed upon you. You went and you joined the Navy. My bad, Navy guys, but you know what it is, right? You were in one of the armed forces, and then you were exposed to so much of the vernacular, the trash talking, and then we continued in that. But that doesn't help people. So what I'm going to be more concerned about with this, what comes out of my mouth, being a lot more concerned with what goes in as well. Those are called impressions. We're going to talk about that when we get into the Obsidian Soul Lounge. So your impressions, you feed off of those as well. They go down. Gossip goes down to the heart, to the inmost soul, and then you end up speaking a thing. So you watch these men. Are they being trashy? Are they being tacky? Are they being terroristic? Those are not safe men. In fact, they're scared men. They're trying to keep themselves safe by pushing you away or trying to pull you forward and push you away at the same time with mind games. But they're just playing themselves. Okay? Here it is, another one. This is important too. Think about this. He's cultivated respect for the wisdom of the crone. The crone. Oh, these archetypes. He's aware of the archetypes of the woman. And he respects the older woman. He can see the beauty, right, in the journey of a woman coming into maturity. And also can pull and receive her wisdom and then implement that to take care of the maiden. Very seldom do you hear me speak to these archetypes because, it's not what I care about, but I'm aware of them enough that I could speak on them. So if I'm concerned with maturing myself, then I would want to have a mature viewpoint and a viewpoint that proceeds forward for the life of the women in my company, right? Because they will, if I'm a safe person around them, be able to enter beyond the maiden, right? Beyond all the other archetypes into a safe, beautiful, radiant version of the crone. And we have a lot of people who are overburnt out in their masculine, who haven't been protected, who are entering into a pseudo-crone. It's only crone by physiology, not crone by the actual safety needed for them to reflect upon the wisdom that they've cultivated and to relax and to fall into the radiance of what it is to attain gray hairs, to attain those wrinkles that tell a story, if they're needed, right? Everyone's actually trying to avoid it. Find older people beautiful, especially the ones who have been able to move with grace to attain that old age. I tell you, I say it, I'm 42, but I'm like an old man in here. These grays, man, I earned them, yeah, but they're also a gift. So I'd like to put them into action as we move forward. The next one, okay, is discerning and enjoys providing. I'm discerning and I enjoy to provide. Why? Because it's natural, right? But he doesn't cater to obscene. He does not cater to obscene entitlement. Okay? We don't negotiate with terrorists. Now, let's think about that. We're in a society where, I was talking about grandiosity. When you can sit with ceremony, sit with the medicine, and become grandiose in your mind. I'm everything. I'm the divine. And then people that didn't sit with ceremony, now you start talking about them a certain way. But you're in your own grandiosity because you're not grounded. And so in grounding, you come out of ceremony and you realize, wow, that tree is divine. man, that construction worker, even though he's not operating in safety, he is building the overall structure. He works from sun up to sundown and then some. He sleeps on a cot to create something that someone else is going to come. He's creating a structure that someone else is going to sit in, and he did it with his bare hands, amidst all odds, in dangerousness. Okay? That is the divine architect. He's the fingertips of the divine architect in action. And so part of that, again, is when I speak to the obscene entitlement, is our forgetfulness of how all the pieces work together. And then we take things for granted. There's the expectation. All right? The entitlement would be like, yo, Ez is my partner. He's going to take care of these things. But I don't have no respect for him. I'm not really into him. I don't know what he's about. You know, he's got his vision, but whatever. Does it bring home the bills? Does it, and it's like, there's more. Because no one's entitled to my time. I'm aware of that because I don't feel entitled to anyone else's time. It's a gift for me for you to be on here witnessing and sharing with me. And so I roll with that. No one has to give me anything. I can go and get it. But when someone does give me something, I pause and I give thanks. I go in my little cubby hole and I eat my cheese sandwich. No, I'm just kidding. I give thanks. The phone that I'm on right now, I give thanks for it. Because you know who gave it to me? You. Yes, you. Not all of you, just one you. Thank you. Okay? So, some men cater to that entitlement because they think that's what it is to do. I don't. I'll tell a person no. And it feels good. Not because I'm not pounding and grounding you with my no, but the no is just. And sometimes people need to receive that. And I'm okay to receive a no as well. The next thing is, right in line with that, he sets and enforces boundaries. He sets and enforces boundaries, meaning this is it right here. Now, what does that look like? Sometimes we have to set and enforce boundaries with ourselves. We call it discipline. I'm going to wake up at this time. I feel like falling back to bed, but nope, I'm going to get up and go get out there, get in the water, get a workout on, get back by a certain time, take my call, jump on. I said I was going to do a live. I'm doing a live. That's a boundary that I'm enforcing. Because the flip side of that would be make my honey lemon tea, cook big meal, chill out, not do anything, not read the books that I have set aside for me to get into by virtue of the work that I'm going to be providing to people. So sets and enforces boundaries, but guess what? That boundary can also be in the relationship, right? Because if he's admitting he's wrong, or if you're admitting you're wrong, or if there's something that's off that's going on in the relationship, thank you so much, then the hardest thing for a man, one of the hardest things for me in my journey has been enforcing boundaries. Why? Because I grew up in a household full of people, with multiple generations, so I felt like I didn't have a voice. I kept my opinion to myself. I was getting in trouble for every expression of just being me. I was called desod, okay? Then I would get spankings. That's okay. It's what it is. But it's like all these things happened, and then it would be like I'd only fight and stand up for myself in school. And for the most part, I would stand up for my friends. So it'd be like, yo, you're messing with Rostin and John and they're Filipinos and you call them Chinese, let's go. Until you admit that they're Filipino and you figure out what the difference between a Filipino and a Chinese person is. Cheers. Xie. And also, ¿Cómo está? And so it's like, so I'm fighting, but really to enforce a boundary for myself and using that as an example until I can stand up for myself and say, Dad, I'll listen to you, but don't hit me anymore, right? Because if you don't enforce your boundaries will force you to become something that you're not meant to be. But it's all connected. So it's really been a good thing, and it's been the same thing in relationship. Me saying, this isn't right, this isn't aligned. Okay, I'm not going to be in this kind of dynamic. Let me present you the dynamic. Can we change it? Can we change it? Can we change it? No? All right, later. And then I move on. Even as difficult, it's been a difficult thing. It's been the most difficult thing for me in my life to consistently, and it's not me running away, but to step away from dynamics that aren't good for me because I can still be in love with the person or in love with my perception, my imagination, my illusion of a person that I was walking with. And then to say, wow, I did this with you for so long, and now I'm solo. But it's okay, because I'd rather be solo in my truth, not a truth, not my truth like the subjective truth, but the truth of that wasn't a healthy dynamic, no matter what it looked like to anyone on the outside. And it is now. I'm in a healthy dynamic in my relationship with myself. I'm going to only enter into a more healthy dynamic as I navigate in relationship with the next partner. You dig? And so the boundaries are important. The next one is, okay, the safest masculine is a lifelong learner. Why? Because humility is important. Humility doesn't say, I don't deserve. Humility says, whoa, this is a gigantic experience. And I am one part of a multitude of all the components of a totality of consciousness. So the journey is reflecting. I'm receiving something and I reflect it and it's reflected back. And it's like this ping pong in a multitude of directions, right? Isotropic even, if you will, which is like the sun shining in every direction, okay? Innumerable and receiving. And so I don't know everything because I need what you know to augment my knowing, right? And then this is what the hive mind is important. This is why a SEAL team operates, because they start to operate in a space where they're able to access everyone's knowing. It makes them bigger. And this is also why the family structure is being attacked. Okay? The family structure creates a hive mind. And that hive mind has access to immediate ancestors and also the ancestors that came before them on both sides of the family. So if you leave people in confusion, if you upset them and leave them in an ambiguous, traumatic state, if you have them chasing their tails and arguing and bickering for certain things, if you make it impossible for them to actually come up in the same household to see the whole life cycle of what it is when a man and a woman journey together, and children journeying with their parents and their grandparents, and you miss seeing all those interactions, you've essentially utilized a war strategy and a tactic to take away supplies, so to say, right? To fuck up the informational flow and to destroy comms, okay? And so now you can't function, you can't win in the battle that is life, and also the enjoyment that is life, because that hive mind, that joyous connectivity has been infiltrated, it's been blocked. Same thing when we're living in Mexico and the internet stops. If I'm on this live and it cuts, maybe it's a vibe right now, and then what? Same thing. All right. So to be a lifelong learner is to recognize that anyone and everyone is your teacher. Can you extract the wisdom? Some people are saying, here's the distilled wisdom. Like myself, I'm going to distill wisdom and share it with you, and other people will be sharing a word, sharing from the top of their head, and they'll be carrying some wisdom, and that wisdom they may not even be aware of. They might just be a vessel for the wisdom, but can you extract it? It will take you to choose and to decide, I'm going to be a lifelong learner. And I'm speaking to the traits of safe masculine. Dave, what's up, my man? Okay, the next one is, he's never intimidated by a wise, beautiful, and powerful woman. Why? Some men are intimidated by that. Me, in truth, maybe when I was younger, but I used to be that guy who was going after my friends' older sisters because they were wiser, they were beautiful and developed, right? And they were powerful and they had driver's licenses. That's how young I was going after them, okay? So it's not, I didn't take game theory. I've just always been a forward, hey, I desire you. What does it mean? What do I need to do? What is that? What do I have to be? This is what I am. What do you think about that? Huh? What's up? And so I was young, so it was cute. And then I tucked that. I put that aside because the thing that affected me most was when Rihanna, one of my friends, and you've heard the story before, she says, you can holler at me when you become a man. And I was like, damn, I'm only 16. So legally, it's going to take me a couple years, but also I need some literature. And I began reading. I began reading Men's Health, Men's Journal. So as a teenager, I put away Nintendo Power and started learning about what's being presented to us as becoming a man. I saw the transition between Men's Health, as it was at one time, and Men's Journal, and then getting into Maxim, the Maxim phase, right? And then while still having access to Playboy and Penthouse. So I had all this different, and then books, right? Different literature. I've been reading different items for a long time. So not intimidated by a wise, beautiful, powerful woman, okay? That's important. But check this out. He knows how to spot the opposite qualities and keeps a distance. Meaning, if you're on some ignorant stuff, ladies, okay, if I come to share and spend time with you and I'm going to leave with my life force drained, and I didn't choose to give you, I didn't choose to drain that life force into you, but it's just by virtue of the sheer difference in our energetics and who you are as a person. I need to be able to discern and spot that a mile away, which as a man comes into maturity, he's able to do this. So some of you ladies may feel like, oh, these guys are going after younger women. Not necessarily, that's not all there is to it. Yes, there is the tendency for some men to want to be able to be with a woman who's malleable, because he's going to be ahead in a way. He's going to have some wisdom that he's cultivated, and he can directly give that to her, and there's less impedance. There's less force in the way, just like an older woman might holler at a younger man. I dated a lot of older women, and they were able to share things with me, and I was receptive, right? But the other thing is, these women haven't been through all the things. Now, I'm just a person who says, hey, let's put all of it on the table and see how we're going to get to where we're at, And so that is beneficial, but I say to each person their own, as long as it's healthy, as long as it's not, we're not on some molestation type stuff. And I also hold space for men who have and are fighting the tendency to molest, right? To take advantage of youth, because their youth was taken in a way. And so to get to sit with them and say, we're going to stop that behavior, you can bring it up. You don't have to repress it so that you're on some sneaky stuff. So we can identify the frequency of those thoughts. Why is this coming up? What happened to you in your youth? Let's own it. And then let's decide to do something different moving forward, and why that's important. Anyone can shift. I can tell you this right now. But it takes work and it takes determination. And so to be able to spot those qualities in a woman and or a man as well. Here's another one. Okay, a safe man preserves himself. And what do I mean? Many of you have seen me over the years here in Tulum, and those of you who know me my whole life, in my youth, I worked 3, 4. If I could work 5, I worked 5 jobs, right? Just like in The Living Color, those of you who are old enough to remember. I was working all the jobs. You're lazy, doing all this work. And I would work myself to the point where I'd be driving home at the end of a shift, start to doze off. That's not safe, right? A safe man has to set boundaries, sets boundaries on himself, and then also creates boundaries to allow himself to preserve himself. They say put the life mask on first, but that can be lost. That philosophy can be lost in so many ways. Preserving myself may mean I'm going to stop doing ceremonies for a bit. Preserving myself may mean I'm going to go celibate for a time to really understand what's pulling me to these women in my proximity. Are these the kind of women that I want to interact with? Also, I may stay away from certain men. Okay, I may cut off all my work collaborations and reflect upon everyone that I've collaborated with, and then identify where it didn't feel good and how I want to proceed so that I can present them, right? I'll present them to you. I'm very straightforward in that way. Hey, I want to work with men who are confident. We're not coming into this work thing with any doubt. Okay, if there's doubt, we can talk about it, but we're going to be keen on there's an action to take. It's about the people that we're going to serve. We're going to be safe. We're going to speak about all the things. We're going to invest in the process wherever we can, and we're in it. Let's go get it. If not, then we can work on all the things in between, but it's not the same. So me preserving myself, a man who preserves himself, is actually one who's getting to know himself and knows his cycles. He's investigating his cycles. He's inquiring into some deeper esoteric self-knowledge as well as regular physical grounding common sense, and starts to clock his energy levels and says, I'm going to preserve my energy. This is also, the preserving himself can also be Afrosensual. This can also be in the space of tantric sex, right? Or sex, it is tantric, regardless. Preserving your energy, tightening up your butthole, holding in that ejaculation and not releasing your fluids. And that also may mean making sure that you choose a partner who can honor that if you're in the beginning of that process. Why? Because there's other life force that we can share with each other. So, to preserve yourself is to learn, and is to decide and to discern, and then to honor that with action by saying, I'm going to hold this in. He can preserve his heart. We want to have an open heart, but brothers, also some of you are so caught up in the fantasies and our idealism about relationships, but you're not discerning the people who you share time with. And you're opening up, you're opening up. You're talking all this shit about the women, but you guys are opening up the legs of your heart, and you're not even aware of it. And then you're getting pissed off at the things that aren't working out because you didn't discern with the partner, and then you're taking it out on the next women. So both men and women are so similar. This is what I've seen. That's why I like the harmonizing duality, the harmonizing thing, is because this is an opportunity, a container that I hold for people to reflect upon the fact that we're not so different. We're complementary. A complementary version of one thing. That's what everyone's talking about in union, but it's lost. It gets lost in translation. But I'm not going to let it get lost because it's part of my incarnation, right? So this is a natural thing to me. Do you understand what I'm saying? To preserve yourself may mean to identify why. Why is the same thing happening to you in relationship? Why are you so tired after making love to this person? Why do you feel like you have to ejaculate every time? Okay, also, in you learning and beginning to master not ejaculating, then you have to go further back and say, are you just trying to shock and awe and wear someone out? Or is there a way that you can navigate that energy exchange? Why would you even learn these deeper secrets and these deeper mechanisms of the human body and our connection, if not to benefit other people, if not to come into a space of allowing the energy to flow? Sifu Michael Manguru is on here today. You know, I've really been thinking about so much of what's shared in the last 2 Tai Chi classes. And then going into my experience with the ocean, also I'm experiencing a lot better balance on the board. Who knew? You did. So I can see why Sifu Andrew is probably an amazing surfer, because it really, all of a sudden, getting in your core, so much has been revealed to me. And then I see how that plays into the tantric world as well, right? And then also now going back to the Tao, the Jing. And then the program that I have is called Magnetic Masculinity. Now, I'm not saying that because it sounds good, magnetic, attractive, but I'm actually a physicist, right? So I've all, for the past, before even COVID started, I locked myself in a room, and I still do this, a table full of books, but I'm investigating magnetism, the conjugate nature of reality. What is this? What it isn't, you know? Let me make sure the power didn't shut off. Okay, so it's funny to start to see how things are connected, and then to really contemplate, especially with what you were showing in our last session, when we learn about, it's not me doing the fighting, it's the person fighting themselves, and you being connected to the earth and moving that energy. And now I see that in play with the surfing. I see this in play with the love making and holding space for a woman as she moves through all of her emotion. But for me to be grounded, then she's really getting to know herself and being awed by what she gets to know. So this is a great thing for a man at this age, with my experience, to now come back into the martial arts, because I see how the yin and the yang work. I can understand now what you're speaking to with the spiral and the circular motion and the Tai Chi walking, and so it's a very special. I feel really grateful to be in that space, and also the reason that I wanted to get into Tai Chi and bridge the gap between some of the martial arts that the men are practicing, some Muay Thai, right, the boxing, okay, all of the other martial arts, even some of the combat martial arts. It's so forward, right? Everyone's going off, and so what they're doing is they're expending their energy. And what I saw and felt with the Tai Chi is that I'm building up more energy, I'm preserving myself. It's a practice that you can do into old age, because I first was exposed to it I was in Oahu. Now I'd go to the park, and there were older folks doing Tai Chi, and that's where I was first exposed to Tai Chi. So I get to come in and maybe learn some of the brocades through that practice, and then getting to experience Qigong, you know, when I was in Thailand. So it's super cool, and I really appreciate, you know, the opportunity to tie these things together. Here's some more, okay? What I'm speaking to are safe masculine. Safe masculine knows the feminine, right? He know the masculine, but keep to the feminine. It's one of my favorite phrases, a big illuminating statement to me. He will identify and establish safety. As a lifelong learner, you will identify what is safe and what is not safe, and then you will make the decision, you'll roll up your sleeves to create safety, because you hold the structure. So, and you can do it impeccably. And because it comes natural to you, if you only let it, then as you dive into that, miracles can happen, and you get the whole space within your container for those miracles to happen. Take that in so many different ways if you choose. All right. The next one has a code of conduct, okay? And also has principles, rules. Many people are against the rules. I'm not against rules. Why? Because I realize, especially in the masterminds, someone has a vision, they have to create the rules that help you to attain to who you're supposed to be. When I say supposed to, you're having a vision, right? You're projecting yourself, a future self that is more evolved, more involved, more connected out into the world. Well, that person, that being, operates under a certain structure, i.e. the rules. And so rules, which can be considered a code or a code of conduct, and your principles that inform the rules help you to attain to your higher version of you. And all you need to do is, when you forget that and you start to act in a different way, you say, oh no, this. Now, what we have in society is a different experience of rules. We have different codes and stipulations. In fact, they call them something different. They don't call it rules. When you get penalized for a ticket, there's another name that I can't recall right now, but it's not the same, okay? So rules and principles, he has those and he stands on them. And he's also willing to reflect on them to see if they still bring about that safety. And we're almost done. He's willing to stand with good men and stand up for good women. He's willing to stand with good men, which means you have to cultivate discernment and identify what is a good man. All right? Good, bad can be arbitrary, but really not so. Aligned, beneficial, constructive. Think of constructive, deconstructive. Okay? If you want to be with someone who's constructive, you can stand by them, and what you're doing is you're going to create a constructive outcome. My brother, I'm speaking to at 33, but we're almost to the tail end. We can say attributes. All right? These are qualities of a safe man. Why? Because I'm going to be holding space for women with specific men who I've deemed and I know already are safe. So I don't have to worry about it. I've been holding space for women, and it's been magnificent in different circumstances, but not all the men have been safe. Some of them have been creepy. Some of them have been leaky in their sexuality. Coincidentally, a leaky man is still connected to, you have to, because it's all one thing. We want to talk about hydrodynamics, right? Something is leaking, something else is pulling. And so it's really unawareness on the state of both. Okay, there are some men who are leaking, and that make men feel ashamed and worried. But in taking time to feel into my body, the male body reacts like a thermometer, a barometer even. Okay, so what is the magnetism? What is the pulling? I'm using magnetism, and I'm gonna define it in the mastermind, the mastery mind class that I'll do, because the definition that we have is upside down and twisted. We think a lot of times, that the power is in the dissipation, and this is where I gain a deeper insight also into the Tai Chi. Grounding and being in that stillness and being able to move, we're not using any power. The other thing is using its power, and we're absorbing, okay? So the dissipation of power is what many people think, and I'm studying a fantastic set of books by Ken Wheeler as well, but it's been 4 years now, so the jargon, when he speaks to the ether, right, and ether, modality, ether perturbation modality is what we would really use to define a field. To speak to the conjugate nature of reality sounds word heavy, but if you go into it, after a while you start to understand that it's not so difficult what we're witnessing, and we really have made it difficult, okay? So, willing to stand in his purpose, and also, here's one, he's willing to stand in his purpose for the perpetuation of his legacy, his lineage. Hey, yo! You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have a vision. We're holding fast for something. For me, my legacy isn't just mine. If I have children again, fantastic. If I don't, guess what? I'm still here with all of you and all of your children. Guess who I'm looking out for? Guess who I will cultivate myself for until the day that I die, till I breathe my last? You, your progeny. A healthy society for them. Healthy men who can express themselves, men who will navigate through a rites of passage, the men who will take those men through a rites of passage. I want to make sure things go smoothly for them. This is my role in life. I own it. Okay? The work that it's going to come with. Fine, now it's fun to me. Even when it's not fun, it's okay. Why? Because they're aligned with my principles, my code of conduct, my understanding of why I'm here. I don't need nothing else. Okay? Next one is, he's aware of his childhood trauma and not in bondage to it. You guys have heard me talk about me being beaten as a child. That's the culture, but maybe not so much just the culture, right? That was trauma, generational trauma being passed down. And also me, I don't know, the fights that I got in, me losing my mind, like little things that happened, the fear that I had, me wanting to actually kill my father. I began working out and doing push-ups in between TV shows. I had an uncle who was, a lot of family was bodybuilders, but my uncle would say, yeah, you just do push-ups in between TV shows if you want to build up. So we'd watch a show. During the commercials, I'm busting out 25, 50, 75 push-ups. Whole time I'm working out because I'm going to take my dad. You know, I'm tired of him. I haven't said enough. I wanted to destroy myself, and then now I'm like, I'm tired of this. I want to get him, and I just need to get strong enough to take him. And then by the time I was strong enough, I had an epiphany at the same time. I didn't chicken out. You know, it was like, well, do I merit anything that he's sending my way? Some of it I did because I was so hard-headed. And then I'm like, I don't know him. I don't know why he's doing this. Why is he only using this? Because he's a very intelligent man. So I approached him. I was like, Dad, look, I realized, again, I said this, I had this conversation with him as a teenager. I said, Dad, I realize, okay, you've been warning me about my friends. Fidel's dead, rest in power. You know, B's in jail, T's in jail, you know, without some of these, Tim's transition, so I can use his name. So I'm like, all my friends are getting into it, gang shit, drug stuff, you know, and my dad was like the dad that could have been there for them too, and they just didn't seize the opportunity. And I have him. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to listen to you. I'm going to reason with you. I'm going to listen. I admitted that I was wrong. I admit that I've been hard-headed. Can you please not hit me anymore? He looked at me, he said, okay. He never hit me again. I didn't merit any hittings, but also the other side of that was if he ever hit me again, best but fucking leave. I was ready for it, but I at least gave that opportunity, and I've done that ever since in any interaction with the man. Give you the benefit of the doubt. You know, I've had things that happen with racism at work. I was on a boat with these guys, Glen Cove in the Sound. We're staying at the Glen Cove Mansion, doing an underwater gamma survey. All this disrespectful talking. And I decide, you know, we're on the boat, and I'm like, I gotta fuck both these guys up. I have to mess up one of the guys as a bystander, then the other guy. So that's how my mind would think in the past. When you know how you gotta think if you have to fight multiple people at one time. Or if you're like, you have to deal with this person who you have a beef with, but then you have to contend with everything. You have to contend with the trauma that happens to everyone who might be looking. And cover yourself. So this is me, okay? And in that space, I'm like, all right, so I work for you guys in this company, and you guys just say whatever you want to the employees. This is how you treat the people. And what I was doing was, I have the tendency to do this, I was trying to throw some flames on it, right? I was instigating so I could pop off with this guy, all right? Because I was fiending for it. I was really ready for this. And I said, this is how you guys get down? You know, this is okay? And he was like, you know what? He's a smart man. He's a smart man. He was like, he looked, he felt into the energy. He was like, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I was like, what? It's like, I was like, huh? He's like, this isn't how we talk to people. I have an issue. I've got Lyme disease. I was like, fuck! Fine. Hey, you manned up. Lyme disease, huh? I gotta look into that. I didn't really know. I know that it could throw people off. And so I was like, I was just like, all right. He's saying is sorry. And actually we ended up being really great friends and having a marvelous time. And also, I think he respected me he could feel it, but he respected me for stepping up. And I also was able to receive another version of his criticism based on my work ethic at the time, because I was spacey, because I was going through so much in my head, right? So I could see how that would choose him to pop off in his mouth, but not in that way. And so also, you know, I'm not having it. But at least we had that mutual respect. And then I just got worse, man. I just continued. Now I'm just checking people left and right. And it's okay for the right reasons. I don't want to go overboard with it. Here we are, okay? But this is me again speaking to my childhood trauma and knowing how to address it, and it's not a bondage. My childhood trauma is something that I can speak to. It's a tool that I can use because now I identify with so many people who have no idea. And then also we can close that chapter and say, that doesn't hold me. The man that I am, I'll be surprised. You wouldn't know what I've gone through in my past. And I don't even care. I care because I register that it happened, but it does not stop me from being who I'm called to be in this life. It can only help me. It only gets to help me so much for many of these other men who are safe, who aren't acting out of the fear from their trauma, but who can recognize it and say, this isn't allowing me to be who I am. Let me take that child who is traumatized, that is me, in my arms and father that child unto its adulthood. Last couple ones. He has confronted his father's weakness in himself, and because, and basically become a generation of strength. So, father's weakness, you know the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? That's a story of confronting your father's weakness within yourself. Why? Because we carry these things into the future. So now you become the generation of strength. If your father wasn't good with money, you make the decision and you do the work. It's going to take work to change that energetic within yourself so that the next generation pops into the construct with the programming, with the activation of, I can handle money well. It's no big thing. This is what I do. I put this money aside. I can be frugal when it's necessary. Okay? If he was a drinker, I had alcoholism in the family. Grandfather, my dad didn't drink. All right? Hardly. Myself, I had an issue in drinking, and I was able to curb that. One, because I knew about my grandfather later, and then also I knew that wasn't the right thing to do, and then I had my father's example, and for me to be better at the things that I felt he was weak at, whether he would admit it or not, then I needed all of myself. I needed sobriety, which we'll be talking about sooner than later as well, despite the fact that I serve medicines, but the medicine is to help people come into sobriety. Oxymoron? Maybe. He will take appropriate responsibility for the next generation. First, this is the next generation right here. You, right? You are the generation that's proceeded from the bow. You're the arrow that came from the bow of your parents into this life. So take responsibility for yourself. Man, that's how you be saved. And then in doing so, now, okay, you're good. How good can I be now to prepare for the next set of masters? The men that I'm working with, some of them are fathers, getting ready to be second-time fathers. So what I get to bring is 20 years of experience, because I got started way earlier than them, and a lot of mistakes that I made. But my mistakes don't mean I'm not qualified, because I've considered the lessons and I still have time to repair. That's the cool thing about being a fellow. Time works backwards for us in some ways, okay? Or forwards, whatever. But also, I can consider what I saw in my circumstance and also what I've seen over the years, and then put that into play, as well as the fact that I have access to and I've sat with people twice, almost, I want to say 3 times my age now, 40 is 120, twice my age, okay, and been able to receive the wisdom with the intention of receiving wisdom from them the whole time. The next one is he will take care for the elderly. Why? Because they're a jewel. They're not a burden. So how do we get involved with the old people? Preferably those who are related to you, because that's your direct lineage, but also because we're all humans, you can still cover and learn so much, and a lot of knowledge is lost. This is why I like the men's groups by the fire and the men's circles, where we have men from 21 all the way to 75, maybe even 80. So do you know what a man now who's 80 years old has seen in life? Do you know what have you seen in this short amount of time that we've been here? 40, 25. At 25, you've seen a lot of shifts, let alone 40, 60, etc. So we should care for the elderly because it's the right thing to do, and that's our lifeline. It's a patch straight through to the internet. That is us. 3 more. He will never give up on establishing a beneficial family structure. That's the war right now. The war isn't what's going on, and it is also unfolding in different countries, but really the attack is on a healthy family structure. For brown people in the States, now all people in the States. It was just at one time it was, the industrial prison complex was, a new Jim Crow. But guess what? And now it's a classist thing, right? It's an economic thing as well as that. So now everyone's family structure is being affected. Then as a man who would maintain the structure, who's got the structure and the density to maintain it, then we should be concerned with identifying what is a good, healthy family structure that creates sane output in the children, that allows us to remove our areas of insanity and come into clarity, to ground in and, to be able to pass that along. So the next one I put is we'll be supportive of sanity. All right. In our spiritual communities, we also have a lot of magical thinking. Now, how I first came in was leaving career working with the armed forces as a contractor. I was in enforcement, right? So I worked for the Department of Agriculture on Kauai as an enforcement role. I was like agriculture popo, all right? And I could still see, it's funny, like, how you gonna be in agriculture enforcement and still act like a dick cop, so to say? So we still had people who were like seeking to abuse their power and then like, trying to train me to do that. And I was like, this whack, that is, no. And so I ended up leaving that position, but of course I passed all my tests. So the insanity. Well, what I saw as I began to be exposed to the psychedelic world and our current spiritual world. I mean, I had already read Eckhart Tolle. I got into the New Age things, but I also got into the older metaphysics. I'm a fan of that which came before Eckhart Tolle, honoring him though as well. Burp. The support of sanity. We have this thing called magical thinking. I had a girlfriend when I first moved to Hawaii after my first divorce, and she was going to school for doctorates in psychology. Notably, she had her own issues that she was working through. Some serious issues like navigating, what do you call them? When you have not illusions of the mind. What's a word for this? Like as winding down. She was navigating with, as well as cutting, Maybe I shouldn't be talking about her. Maybe that's why it's not, my channel's closing up a little bit. She would see things that weren't there. Okay, but one of the things that she spoke to me about was this thing called magical thinking, which helped me to really reflect upon the way that I was navigating in my religiosity. I was Catholic at the time, and I carried through. I went from Catholic to Judaism, all type of Christian, 7-day Adventist, psychosis, thank you. Psychosis, but there's another word where you see things that aren't there, per se. Psychosis, yes, I would say it was a psychosis, but there's the word when you have I don't know. When you see an illusion, it's a figment. It's not really there. It's something you think is happening. Let's go with psychosis, and I really appreciate you filling in the gap. Appreciate you. The next one is supportive of sanity, which means sanity within myself. I need to still check on my grasp of reality, right? My grasp of what's actually happening and ground that in, especially if you've navigated with psychedelics, then your concept of reality has been expanded. So now, hallucination. Mwah! Thank you, Lena. Hallucination. She was having hallucinations. Why? Because she was navigating with medications, all right? On top of that, and she'd been through so much, although she helped me to survive the first bout of cancer because she had also an experience dealing with the medical society, but it was hallucination. Thank you. So she would hallucinate. And then at first, I would be like, maybe she did see that. And then I was like, no, that definitely didn't happen. So I had to fight the gaslighting, which she wasn't intending to, and then recognize, okay, she's not well. She's not well, and then I want her, I love her in all these ways, but it's not a suitable person to come in as the mother of my child if I can't attend to that, as a stepmother for my child. And so I've always at least had that, that boundary of like, you got to be at least sane and healthy, and I still made mistakes moving on. Such is life. So the last one is we're concerned with adding value. And I can close it at that. When I say concerned with adding value, now this is from the space of knowing that we are valuable. We have value, intrinsic value in my structure, in the fact that I am a complementary version of the divine goddess, right? Incarnated in this body. That there's wisdom, that I have my own oracle that I could tune into, all right? That my sex is delicious. That my body, my physical body is strong, but also can channel if I treat it right. That it can heal, that it can hold space for the healing of others, that it can channel information that could change and catalyze a person into being the best version of themselves. That can empower a woman. Not that the woman was powerless, but I can add to by holding a vision of the beauty and the power and the alignment that she is. That I can hold a space and create the dynamic that will allow her to be honest. I was kind of a playboy in college, and and so in some of my experiences with the women, I would find out they were very comfortable with me because they could share everything. Then later they would share, and I have a boyfriend, some of them, So I would be in committed relationships where I'd be doing my thing, And then I'm like, man, I really don't care what you do. And then I would get to know them in a different way because I wasn't being judgmental, but I still had to discern. Now that you're doing these things, I don't know how far we can go, but that was fun. Or, okay, I can understand where you're coming from with this. And then I'm like, well, why can't you just say this to your partner? And it would be like, oh, this person doesn't accept her, right? Or has an issue with it, or he's hung up on this, and so that side of her can't even come out. So now we're dealing with energetics and polarity, okay? So the value is that I value myself. I value my alone time. I value my presence. I value what I bring into the space when I come in, and this is why I will preserve myself now at this stage in my journey, but also I'm preserving myself to give, right? If I'm in celibacy, I'm preserving myself so that my structure is strong, I can outpour all this wisdom, all this energy, this light that I'm cultivating within the frame, if I so choose to pour it, of the beloved, my beloved, okay? And then people believe that I don't have a divine partner just because you haven't met them yet. But like that's a figment of your imagination, because we don't exist in solitude. We exist as a unified aspect with ourselves, but you are in union even if you haven't crossed the progression of time to come into contact. It's about your orbit. Where are you at in your orbit right now? What should you be doing? What can you do to honor the love that you say that you desire and that you want? Because your decisions shift how you move about that orbit. So what I can do, when I came into a relationship with my last partner, straight away, okay? I was like, 3 days in, I'm like, she needs to feel comfortable. Here's the key to my place. I might not do the same thing now because I need that time to myself. But it was like, okay, she needs to know that she's safe in this relationship. And some of that was projection. The other thing was, all right, whatever I purchase moving forward is for family. I came into a relationship like that. So that's why I have the Suburban. That's why I got the big SUV, because I was like, I had a van that we were going to go pick up, and I'm like, I want to have kids with this woman. And I want us to have a fucking amazing life and family. And I need to be able to take her anywhere in this vehicle. I'm only going to get one vehicle anytime soon. I need it to be G'd up like the military, vehicle. And I personally want to put bars on it and get it bulletproof. Will come in time, But so I thought about that ahead of time. So then when the opportunity came, at first I was looking at an excursion, in truth. It was lifted. That's ridiculous, okay? Can you imagine a pregnant woman trying to climb up a lifted excursion with no but eventually I settled on the Suburban, which is enough to fit us, her family should they come down, and my family, right? Plenty of room for a baby, for changing. Also, if we need to camp out in that thing, we can camp out in it. If I need to, if I'm coming across cartel or whatever, I have a vehicle, and I've had this happen in truth here, where I've had to be kind of mano a mano with the police. But guess what? I'm not in a Pinto. I know how to throw my weight around, and I can really ask Brother Source how he made it through the jungle not too long ago, and he'll tell you a story that he probably won't want to repeat. I know how to move that thing, and should I need to, I have it at my disposal, and it's a tank. Now, the relationship transitioned and parted ways, but guess what? The vehicle helped me to move into the space that I'm in. I will take care of it and love it and honor it, because you need that foresight. And yeah, Lena, when we roll, you see my head on a swivel, literally, because there's so much going on. So the foresight it's really daddy foresight. I wasn't so much like this before my first child was born. I was a bit kind of naive in a way, and then there was aspects of that. But I think after my daughter was born, then I began to look at things in a different way, and I still bring that into the men's group, whether I talk about it or not. The question is, hey, what do you want to do with her? What is the end goal? Do you know that you as a man, it's okay to have an end goal that's beneficial for everyone involved? It may not seem beneficial. Me breaking up with a person because it's not aligned, it's beneficial for her, right? Even if it's a shock to her, the shock wakes her up to the fact that, hey, we weren't doing some things. It wasn't aligned. It wasn't so good for everyone involved, even if you thought it was good. Don't fool yourself moving forward. Time is of the essence, so to say. Now, when you come into a relationship, all those things that maybe she may have overlooked, she will look into. Same for me. Things that I would have, easy to fall into, not the case anymore. Now, I'm very discerning about my time and the energy because I want to give it to the people that I love, yourself included. I want to honor, those who are in my life, who I'm going to go the long haul with. And so I'm coming in with that foresight. And this is why I'm not working at some places that I might have been working at before, but I can find another way to do that because I want to focus the energy into the purpose. And I'm in a space of asking to be guided to do that. And so here we come to the conclusion of this live, and I'm open to any thoughts. If you'd like to share, if you want to come on and just share your thoughts before I close, it's up to you. If not, this is fine, and I would like to post this on YouTube as well and shorten this up. So maybe I'll leave it up for a day. It's a pretty long one for Instagram, 33, but also I think they're important for our sisters to know, and I think it's important for us to really consider as we navigate, especially in another country, in a foreign country, what does it feel like to be around a safe man? So a safe man holds space for you to unfurl, and then you begin to hold space for him. That's the flip side. It's always reciprocal, because as you begin to release these aspects of you and come into more of your authenticity, then wow, it impacts us. We receive it. We're penetrated by the divine feminine in all of her expressions, especially in her authentic expression. And what I see on YouTube, what I see on Instagram, really a lot of things are still trying to play games with each other, trying to manipulate each other, and it's just not safe to be who we are. And I say, if I'm not safe to be who I am in the relationship, that relationship ain't it for me. So I'm just only going to bring more of myself forward. Thank you, dear love. I know you got to roll. I appreciate you for sticking on for so long, and I hope you have the most beautiful, aligned, epic day. We'll check in soon. Pauhana is what they say. We almost done with Friday. Mucho aloha from you know where, because you've been here. Okay. Much love.